thank you for joining us on a Friday as well. This is really exciting. I'm really excited to be here because I've checked out loads of your videos on YouTube, Rich, and they're amazing. They're great, and I love your.
Thank you.
You have to check it out, guys, because Rich has this like amazing like talking avatar in the videos, and it's so cool. But we did a dry run of this yesterday, and I learned so much. And you just have a really great way of kind of explaining things, Rich, and I'm really looking forward to today.
Thank you.
Really looking forward to it. So sorry, now I'm just covered my notes here. So look, thank you to everybody for joining and welcome to another one of our Community Leaders webinar series. Today, we've got our live tutorial with EditorX YouTuber and Community Leader, Rich Vargas. I'm your host, Marie McLaughlin from the EditorX team. And look, thanks to everyone for taking time out of your busy day today to join us as we have this amazing tutorial with Rich. So yeah, as we said, we've Rich in South Florida. I'm coming from Dublin, and we've got people from all around the globe joining us. So thank you for being here today. We're doing these webinars as part of a regular series with our community leaders. So these are great creators like Rich, who are members of the EditorX community and actually do a whole lot to give back to the community in so many ways, and you know, volunteer time out of their very busy schedules to teach us a thing or two. So we're really, really grateful for that. And we're really privileged to have these amazing creators helping us out with this. So I just wanted to say a huge thanks to Rich for being here with us today. As I said, Rich is a senior web designer and YouTuber who creates really helpful videos for new designers looking to find their place in the web design world. Be sure to check out his videos on YouTube. Just search Rich Vargas on YouTube, Rich, right? Rich Vargas EditorX probably would be a good way to
find. There's only 2 other Rich Vargases I'm competing with at the moment, I believe, or just youtube.com/Rich Vargas. Yeah, that's perfect.
Brilliant. And today, Rich is going to be walking us through how we can use the layouter tool to create the ultimate homepage for our website or landing pages. And Rich, you're going to be creating a modular design from scratch, and we're going to be learning more in general just about how to use the layouter. So folks, look, if you have questions, please add them in the chat. We'll do our very best to come to them at the end of the webinar. If you're on Zoom, you'll see that we have a separate Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there. And you can add your question to that and it won't get lost in the bigger chat. So we can come to it at the end, and we'll have about 10 minutes for Q&A at the end. If you're joining live on Facebook, please just pop the questions into the chat there in the live stream, and we'll come to those as well. And throughout the webinar, look, please feel free to share your thoughts, struggles, triumphs, experiences of building websites and using the layouter. We'd love to hear them. As I said, we're live streaming this webinar on Facebook in the official EditorX Facebook group, so you'll be able to watch back this recording later as well. And if you haven't joined the Facebook group already, I'll pop a link to that in the chat so that you can. But look, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the absolute pro. That is Rich. And Rich, look, before we kick off, I'd love to hear just a little bit about yourself and your background as a web creator.
Sure. Thank you, Maria. Let me know if my mic is too loud.
This is great.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So my journey started maybe about 10, 12 years ago. I started working, helping my dad out with his marketing, his website, and I realized I really liked graphic design and web design in particular. So I decided to go to school for it, graphic design, and I learned many different disciplines of graphic design, particularly web design, again, which is why I went to school. And then from there, I ended up with an internship at a women's fashion brand, managing and building their e-commerce site. And from there, I just continued to work in different industries such as tech, agriculture, real estate. And now I work here for an awesome company called Rock Contents, where I build interactive experiences like assessments, ebooks, and landing pages for enterprise clients.
Amazing. That's brilliant. And you've created some really great tutorials on EditorX as well. Rich, can you tell me a little bit about that on your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So a reason behind my YouTube channel, the reason for having so many tutorials or choosing EditorX It was mainly because when I first started out as a designer, if I didn't have the mentors I had, at some points I didn't have those mentors and resources, and it was difficult. So I just kind of wanted to, at this stage in my career, be that helping hand. I like to live by the philosophy, if you can just help someone that's one step behind you, you know what I'm saying? You're going to do good in the world. You're going to do good for them. You don't have to be a complete expert. Um, so yeah, and the reason behind Editor X is I think 2 years ago now, when Editor X was announced, it might have been longer. I was super excited because responsiveness was coming to Wix with Editor X, Flexbox, CSS Grid. So I was just like, finally, I can have multiple. I can edit the multiple viewports and add viewports and media queries. So that was kind of my decision for choosing Editor X, and Wix is the platform I started on 12 years ago when I was playing around and creating websites. So I thought, everybody knows Wix. This is a great platform, a great company that's stood the test of time. Let me stick with this. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, designers, non-designers are using Wix and will hopefully eventually migrate over to Editor X, and they're going to need help. So let me see how I can help. And yeah, that's the reason behind that.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you for sharing them with us, and I'll pop the link in the chat, as I said, in just a moment. But look, I'll stop talking, Rich. I'm going to hand it over to you because you're going to share your screen and you're going to start the tutorial for us. So over to you.
Oh, that's today. Okay. All right. So let's see if I can do this without destroying everything. Let me share my screen. I think this is it. If I could just get a thumbs up, let me know if it's
looking great. Yeah,
looking great. If I switch tabs, you're able to see the other tab.
Yeah, it's all coming through. Great.
Cool. All right. Step one complete. All right, guys. So today we're going to be creating this right here, which is a landing page, or it could be a home page. I designed this with it being a template in mind. I wanted to make it very simple of a design, using the layouter elements, and also be very thoughtful in what's included here. So, here we have our hero with our logo and our tagline. Right here, we have our first call to action. That's could be a proof of concept, or, social validation. That's not the correct term, but just basically showing that you're a thought leader in this field, or an expert in this field, whatever it is. So we have this call to action to sign up for a free class. It can lead to a form. It can lead. Oh, recording just started. It could lead to a form, or wherever you want this call to action to go to. Here, these tiles will be clickable, where you can, this is obviously some sort of e-learning or tutoring service. Here you can see what type of subjects they have. Here you can see if this class assessment is, or if this company is for you by taking a class assessment. And this copy is not correct. I apologize. And then here's a downloadable ebook, just offering them a resource. So this landing page, if you will, it can be used as a home page or just a landing page for a campaign. Just has different call to actions that you typically your customer or prospect customer would want to access, and tying it in with Google Analytics, you can be able to track, what your customer or client is most interested in. You'll see, subjects. So let me create a landing page on subjects, or let me talk more about subjects through blog posts or whatever. So that's kind of the idea behind this build here. And this is 100 viewport height and width, and completely responsive. So yeah, it's going to display all the content at any height. So let's get started. Let me see. Can I see questions coming in just in case?
I'll keep an eye on
okay,
questions.
cool. I don't see. All right. So let's get started. I'm going to start with a blank page here. And if you guys have a blank page, you can get one open very quickly. You can follow along depending how quick you are. But the first thing I want to do is just get rid of my header and my footer. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is add an element, and that's going to be the layout element. Actually, let's select the section right here. You can see in the breadcrumbs page section. I'm going to go to my inspector panel here, and I'm going to give my section a minimum height of 768 pixels and a maximum height of 100% viewport. So meaning it will always span the full viewport height, and when the content or the browser size gets to 768 pixels tall, it will stop resizing the content and the page will just cut off and you'll have to scroll to go below the fold. And that's what you kind of want, you know, anything, but people are typically not going to be going below that height on a desktop or laptop. So that's a safe height. Usually they'll be using a mobile device or tablet, and at which point you won't have any information being cut off or needing to scroll. So that's the reason behind this right here. I'm going to go ahead and select my layouter now, and I'm going to hit this little button right here. Let me see if I can zoom. Cool. Stretch. All right. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. And now I have this stretched. If I publish this, actually, let's add some values first here. I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to add an item. You can right click on any part of the layouter or any item. I'm going to add an item. And now I'm going to start building my layout. The first thing I want to do, before we start doing that, sorry, I'm looking over at my notes, guys. I'm just trying to get everything in order here. Let me cover the fact that I already set up my typography styles. So I just picked my fonts. I recommend doing this prior to beginning a project, as well as my colors. So everything is set up so that I can work more efficiently and things can go more smoothly while I build. The next thing I want to do is customize my breakpoints. I use a specific set of breakpoints in my day-to-day while working. So I'm just going to add them here. The first one I want to add is 1200. And so now I'm going to have a viewport that's anything 1200 pixels wide and up is going to be this viewport. This one right here, I'm going to change to 991. All right, so this middle viewport is 1200 to 992 pixels wide. So that's going to be another viewport. And then the last one I want to do is change this to 767. I know these are very specific values. These are just what I work with. You can use what you have there and then add viewports as you need it. But I just like working with these right here. So I have my breakpoints set up for my different viewports. And now I'm going to assign some values to my items here. So if you hear some clicking, I have a checklist on the side here. I'm just checking things off, making sure that I'm not missing anything. Don't want to leave you guys with an incomplete project here. All right. Cool. All right. Now, the top item right here, the first top item right here, we're going to go to the layout in our inspector, and we're going to set the width to 60%. I'm going to give it a minimum height of 60 viewport height. Try that again, 60 VH. Beautiful. And then this one, you'd assume 60 and 40 equals 100%. I'm going to make it 30. And the reason I'm going to make it 30 is because we have gutters. Call them gutters, I guess, or horizontal or vertical margins. And as soon as this works, cool. So you can see now this one's slightly larger than this one. We could also adjust the size here by clicking minus or plus, but I just like putting the values in specifically or so that everything is how I want it. The last three here, we're going to make these 30% in width, 30% width, and 40% VH. So now we have 60 and 40 is 100 viewport height. All right. So now that we've done that, I'm going to show you. Let's take a look at what we're working with here. Let's let this finish updating. Cool, got a check mark. Give it a refresh. And now we can see that if we stretch this all the way, it's always going to remain responsive. And once we hit, I have this little helpful plugin here, 767, that's it, the scroll begins, because we don't want our content to be crammed or crushed. So 767 is a good value. If you have another value you think would work better, go ahead and plug it in. So yeah, we have our layout responsive right now. We do actually want to call out that our mobile layout is not ideal. So I'm just going to go into there. Just want to check, Maria, everything good? Is everybody hearing, seeing, everything fine?
Everything is looking great, Rich. Really, really good. Yeah, coming through loud.
Sweet. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Now I'm going to click off and onto the page, and then I'm going to select my layouter, making sure I'm selected here. And I'm going to change this from mosaic to rows. And now I have my rows set up for mobile. Perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and publish this before we move on. And now it's ready. I'm going to select my first item here on the top left, and I'm going to apply the grid. I'm going to select the 1 column by 3 rows, apply that. And then I'm going to change the grid layout and go into advanced mode and edit these rows. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is make this 1.5 FR. The next one is going to be 4. And the last one is going to be 1. I'm going to click done. Then I'm going to change the background to green by going to the inspector, going to the design paintbrush, background, and choosing the green right here. Great. After that, we're going to want to go ahead and add in our logo. So there's multiple ways of doing this. I'm going to go to add elements. I can drag in an image, but I already have it uploaded. It is a faster way of accessing your site files. So I'm going to go to media. And then here, site files, I have my Virtualir logo, or however you want to pronounce it. Just made that up. Virtualir. You see when it was uploaded, it came in a perfect square. I'm going to resize it so that we're pretty close to not having any space at the top or bottom. And I'm going to drag it here into our top row. And then I'm going to give it a width of 40 VH. Sweet. Awesome. I'm going to align it horizontally and vertically to the center and publish that. Next, I'm going to add an image by going to add, media, my uploads, and then show more. Or you could just drag in an image and change the image. Again, there's multiple ways of doing it. I'm going to go to my boards and then open up my favorites. And then here, I'm going to add this image, which is a Wix image. Thank you very much, Wix, for the free image. All of these are. That's another cool feature with Wix that I really appreciate, or Editor X in Wix. I'm going to make sure it's in between these two guides in this row. And then I'm going to hit our lovely stretch button. Boom. And now that's stretched out there. The last thing I want to do for this item is add our tagline in our third row. And I'm just going to copy some text. Sorry, if you see my mouse go off screen, I'm just copying text or checking things off or just reviewing notes, making sure we don't miss anything. I'm going to go ahead and add in, go to my text and add in an H5. My H5 right here, edit text, paste in this right here. I'm going to update my color to my blue, center align. I'm going to set this to 90% width and then align it horizontally and vertically. I'm going to use text scaling here You don't have to. Sometimes it works for me. Sometimes I use it. Sometimes I don't. When I say sometimes it works for me, not to say that it doesn't work. It always works as an element and its functionality. But sometimes I just like to put in a custom value for each breakpoint. But here I'm going to actually use text scaling. And I'm going to set this, the smallest size will be 20 pixels. And the largest will be 32 pixels. And that is good right there. I think we can test out how this looks now. I think I can publish this. Are we doing good? Silence. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to resize this, and this looks good. I'm going to go and actually.
We're doing great, Rich. My mouse cursor disappeared on my screen. I'm going to.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I just found the chat. Ivan, thank you. Good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Also in the chat, just let me know if you're following along. I just want to know if anybody's actually doing this with me. You don't have to. Just curious. All right. I'm going to look at the mobile and just make sure here in our smallest. So it looks like our logo could be readjusted. I'm going to go ahead for this viewport only. I'm just going to make this 35 VH, maybe even 30. It's kind of a giant logo. Yeah, 30 is good. And then I'm going to click off of it onto the page. Select this again, the layouter, and go to the item by clicking it again. So just clicking it again goes to the next level down. And then I'm going to give it a minimum height of 300 pixels. Once again, this is only being done for this viewport right here, the size. And that looks good right there. I'm going to publish it, and we're going to move over to the second item now. All right, item number 2. Let's start by selecting item number 2. I'm going to go to our design paintbrush, update the background color to blue. Next, I'm going to add in another title. I'm going to go with my H4. Just drag it on over. I'm going to resize it so it gets recognized by the item. Let's edit the text. This is going to be, good question. What is this going to be? Over 1,000. Center align, update the color. We're going to go with white once I highlight it. There we go. I think we're going to want to make sure there's a line there, but okay, yep, center line there. And then we're going to do our text scaling. Once again, I'm going to set the maximum to 40. That's the largest it will ever go. And the minimum to 28. I'm going to update the width of the text element container or text element to 90%. Again, make sure it's centered. And then I'm going to copy this by holding Command C and Command V to paste it, which is, I think on PC is Control C and Control V. And here I'm going to put reviews. All right, bring that down a little bit. And now I'm going to add in, actually, let me check off some things here, make sure I am going, everything looks good. All right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and add in a basic shape with the quick add. And it's going to be the star. Resize the star. And just a quick heads up, if you are following along and you are running into any issues where maybe something is not dragging into the correct container, let's say you drag it in here and it bounces back here, just go ahead and hit the refresh and everything should work as it should. I haven't run into any problems yet, but that's just typical of any builder. It is a very powerful WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get builder. So now I have my basic shape here. I have the color. I'm going to copy it same way, Command C, and paste it over to create 5 stars. Actually, before I do that, let me check. The width should be around 11%. So see that? Not even following my own instructions here, guys. All right. Yeah, I just thought that this would work better at 11, 10%, might work at 8. And then I'm going to copy this over, put them in a row to the best of my ability. And I have too many stars, way too many stars. All right, and then I'm going to select them. I'm going to distribute them evenly horizontally and vertically. I'm going to group them first, and then I'm going to place them in a container. The reason I'm going to place them in a container because I want to stack them with the text on the top and the bottom and the button I'm going to add afterwards. Right now, if I select this group, it won't let me do that. So I'm going to grab this group, place in a container, and if I just wanted to stack these guys, now I can stack them. So yeah, now let's add a button. Again, I'm gonna go to add, quick add, and just drop in a button. All right, I'm going to set the button width for right now. This is going to change to 450 pixels. I'm going to update the text to free class. I'm going to go to design and update the text. So there's going to be 26 pixels large. Update to Lulo clean. Color is going to be our blue. Probably should have changed the background first for you guys. Gonna be our vibrant green here for the background. I'm gonna go to border here, make the border also green, and give it a value of 6 pixels. And then I'm going to now go to my hover and make the border color green. And the text color is going to be green as well. All right. I'm also going to give this a height of 8 viewport height right there. So the height of this is based on the viewport height. So it's 8 VH, which I don't know what it, which is 8%. I don't know what it calculates into pixel size, but 8% of the viewport height. So as long as the viewport is stretching, it will grow to 8% of that height. And also as it reduces 8% of that height. That's a number that just worked. Just play around with different values to find out what works best. So now I have my button. I think this is spaced how I want it. I think I actually want this a little bit higher. I want this tighter. So then I'm going to select all of these right here. I have my button. There we go. So I think everything's selected. Just going to make sure everything's centered in the middle and stack it. Now that it's stacked, I want to adjust the margins right here. So this is 6%. Let's leave this at 5. Bottom margin here, 5. And this is all in the inspector panel. And that's good right there. I think I can select the stack now, align it vertically and horizontally. And now I think we could take a look at the different viewports and see how it looks. Publish. Ivan, I see your question. Are there any recommendations for min height and min or in width? I guess it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But I think we can talk about that later during Q&A. If you bring it up, great question. Maybe we can elaborate more on that afterwards. So, oh, I forgot to change. So you see here, I didn't change the width. The reason I changed the width to begin with is just so I can type out my full text free class without it like wrapping. You don't have to, you can have it wrap and then change this after, but with my button selected here, you can see in the breadcrumbs button, I'm going to set this to 80% width. All right. And sorry guys, checking off everything here on the checklist. And I'll publish that. refresh. And now I'm going to want to make it a little smaller, actually. Also, let's take a look at the hover. Hover is working great. Awesome. I'm going to go to this viewport right here. I feel like the text is a little big. So I'm going to go ahead and, excuse me, go here, not change text. I apologize. Go to my design text and give this 20 pixel, not 2 pixels, 20 pixels. And then I'm also going to reduce the size of this item right here. I'm going to make this 50%. That's just going to give me a little more spacing here so that as it resizes, I don't have to worry about reducing text or messing with the text scaling. And that looks good. We have to adjust some things here. Let's see here. I'm going to make this actually, yeah. Here, the container is going to bring the container for the stars up a little bit. That's going to reduce the space between the stars and the reviews text. And then in mobile, we want to resize this item to, I'm going to give this one 350. The values of these are all slightly different. If this one's 300, this is 350. These are going to be 250. But that's just, again, my personal preference of what I think looks good. I think we're saved, and now we can review. Maria, how are we doing on time? Just curious.
We're doing pretty good. Yeah, you're
okay.
You still have good 10 minutes.
4
left.
hours, 4 or 5 hours. Cool.
4 or 5 hours.
Awesome.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Next thing I'm going to do is add an image. Again, add image, drag it into this guy or girl, stretch it, and I'm going to change the image to, once again, something in my boards, under my favorites, and this math and geometry tools image. Cool. I'm going to copy over this text right here by clicking into it until I reach the text. Command C or Control C, click into this item, and Command or Control V. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's just saving me some time. In regards to styling, all I have to do now is change this color and update this to subjects. Now I can select this, align it horizontally and vertically, publish this, and take a look at what it looks like in these smaller viewports. Oh, so I see it wraps right there. All right, so I believe I'm going to just change the text in here, the size here, to 26 as well. And sorry, just checking things off. Refresh. Refresh again, just in case. And there we go. You see how it just bounced, and perfect. This item was pretty easy. I'm going to select the item in the mobile and give it a 250 pixel minimum height. Awesome. Publish. Let's go back to our desktop viewport and check off all these steps. And now we're on item 4. Change the background to white by selecting the item, design, background, white. All right. Then I'm going to copy over this text from item 3, copy, paste. Again, once again, Command C or Control C, paste it in here. And I'm going to copy this text right here and paste it in here. Just resize it. I'm going to edit this text, and I have the text right here. Is this class right for you? Paste it in here. And I'm going to select the text, not the item. And edit the text, change the font. This is going to be 24 at its largest, 10 at smallest. And this is going to change to class assessment. I'm going to center these to the middle. Perfect. I think that's a good amount of margin spacing between them. So I'm going to stack them there. And then I'm going to go back to my layout with the stack selected and align them horizontally and vertically. And let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. This looks good. This may be too big once again, but we'll double check that in the browser window. With the item selected, which I'm not there yet, click in one more time, item selected, give this a 250 pixel minimum height. I'm going to update this text right here to 26 pixels, or excuse me, 24 pixels. I like how the text scaling worked up to this point, and now I just want this at 24. All right, I'm gonna publish that. And take a look. Okay, class assessment and the T wraps. So I think when I get here, if I edit this text, let's use text scaling here, 26. And let me see, actually, let's do 20. Yeah, 25 to 10. Again, it's just playing with the values. And there's many ways of doing this in building in any builder in Editor X. So there's no right or wrong way, usually. There is a right and a wrong way to do things. But typically, if you can get something to work, get the same result in a different manner, is generally not incorrect. So there we go. Cool. Want to actually adjust that title an extra small. This title's a little too small. It's a 26. There we go. I'll publish that. And now we're moving on to our last item. Our last item right here. I'm going to add an image. Place it in the item, stretch it, change it, and select remote learning here for my favorites. Next, I'm going to go to the design with the image selected, and I'm going to give it a background of this green right here and make sure it's 100%. And then I'm going to change the opacity of this image to 25. There. Next, I'm going to grab this text right here, copy it, paste it, update it, say ebook. And then I'm going to copy it again, paste it, and I'm going to want to update this text to say 10 tips for learning, remote learning. Let's update this to 24 by 10. 24 at its largest size, 10 at its smallest. And one more element, just going to add in here a line. I'm going to resize this line. So whatever you feel comfortable resizing it to. Update the color to blue. The line width is fine. That's personal preference. And I actually want this line a little wider. And select the line. And I'm going to stack these with all three selected. Oh, and just in case you don't know, if I select, I didn't explain this in the beginning, I apologize. Select text and hold shift, just like in Illustrator or Photoshop, and then holding shift, select another item, and then select another item. I'm able to stack them. So my apologies for not explaining that in the beginning. I hope I didn't have someone like, finally, he said it. No. Give this a 90% width. And I'm going to then, that was the text or the stack, that 90% width. Then I'm gonna align these vertically and horizontally. I'm gonna take a look at these in different viewports. This is a bit too big. This I want to be, again, that's because I copied this and all of its style attributes from the other text elements that were in these different items. So 24 by 10. Here, I still feel like that's a little big. So I'm actually going to bring this down to 20 by 10. And finally here, I'm going to give this 20 pixels. I'm going to update. Oh, it looks like this is not. Looks a little off. But in the stack, let me go ahead and not to stack the item. Go to my breadcrumbs, click on the item. I'm going to give this a minimum height of 250 pixels. And I want to adjust the margins here. Let's go 15 from the top. And this guy right here, 15 there. And I think we're good. Let's publish this. Let's preview it. This text could be smaller right here, actually, but everything seems to be wrapping as it should. Last place I want to check is actually here. Preview and resize. Cool. Awesome. Let's go back to edit sites. And in our mobile, the last thing I want to do is I'll select the page, click back on to the layouter, and then get rid of my vertical margins. Set this to 0 so that there's no white spaces on mobile. And once that's saved, I think we are done with this stage of the build. Yeah, that's the final, or not the final, semi-final product. The next step would be adding some additional code using Velo to make these containers clickable, so you could take them to an external page or an internal page on the site, and then adding some slight animations so that there's a hover effect similar to the way there's a button. But yeah, I think we're good to go, Maria. I think, and also just gonna plug this in here, Maria. Is it okay if I plug in the future video?
Please do, Rich. Yeah, no,
so
fantastic.
So if you do want to find out how to do that, be sure to check out my channel next week. Go ahead and subscribe. No, just next week I'll be posting a video, a follow-up video to this on how to add that Velo code and how to kind of finish this off so that there's interactions, kind of like this button. So yeah, and one last thing I wanted to point out is that, again, this is kind of like a template. It's nothing like, again, very simple. You saw I just threw a layouter on the page, on the canvas, added an item, did some slight adjustments, and now I have this reusable layout where I can kind of use the same strategy of putting call to action here, 3 call to actions at the bottom, and here I have virtual leer. You can use it for a restaurant. I created this one. This is very simple. All I did was just update the colors, the text, the images, and then here, if you're a personal trainer or a gym, again, looks like I didn't change the button color there, but yeah, so it's very flexible. Layouter in general is very flexible. This is just scratching the surface. There's so much more that you can do and just push things further. Just wanted to make a basic tutorial. So that's my time. Thank you very much, Maria. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Rich. That was amazing to see you do that and so quickly as well. It looks fantastic. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'm already subscribed to your channel. So
Yes. It was worth it. No.
Hey, no, that was really, really great. And we've got some really great questions as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll go to Q&A, folks. If you're watching on Zoom, you'll see that there's a Q&A box that you can actually put your question into there. So it doesn't get lost in the chat. If you're on Facebook, please pop your question directly into the comment section there as well. And we'll come to as many questions as we can. And we have some great ones, but I think we'll come back to that one, Rich, about the height and width. And we have kind of two questions around that, because I know Ivan was asking, how do you decide on height and width? And also, like he was kind of saying, what are your recommendations for minimum height and width? But we also have a question from Ronnie, who says, how can we make height a bit more flexible? Because he's saying width is flexible and can change from one item to another, but height seems to be forced. So can we kind of take those two questions together?
I'm going to pass on both those questions, actually. No. It was Ronnie, right? I saw it in Facebook before joining. That's a great question, because that's one thing that I struggled with. And setting, so you can't really set what was it? You mentioned a height or a width? Was it I think he said height.
Ronnie was asking about height. Yeah.
Height, yeah. So the height, you'll see that you can't set a height, but you can set a minimum height. And that's why I use a viewport height, since it is flexible and it'll span, it'll grow or shrink with the browser size as you grow and shrink the browser size. So it's gives it a responsiveness. Another option, Ronnie, is you can also just set a fixed pixel. So 500 pixels, and then just in your next breakpoint, change the height to 400 pixels, or maybe it needs to be larger or smaller. So that's, it's Editor X is a very flexible product builder. And like I said earlier, there's really no wrong way or right way to do things. It's always the right way, as long as you can achieve the same results without breaking things completely. But no, yeah, I would definitely, and then you saw in the beginning, I grabbed my section and gave it 100% viewport height. And then also that was for the height value. And then for the min height value, I was also able to give it that 768 minimum height, 768 pixel minimum height value. So that, because if I didn't put that minimum height value, if I just put 100 for the height, 100 for the minimum height, as I made that browser smaller, which you never will get a browser, like no one's looking at a browser like this, but still, if a client's resizing it, they're acting silly. Oh, let's see how, and they go this small, you'll see everything just get squished, So that's why you want to give it that min height. And that was done on the section. And then when you add the layouter, you select your items, you can set your, your heights. I had put 60 VH, and then for the top row and 40 VH for the bottom row. So I hope that answered your question, Ronnie. If you're here, is he here? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Ronnie, yep, there he is.
Great. Hey, Ronnie. Actually, following on from that, this is a good question from Nama, I think, about what guides you to choosing a layouting tool in Editor X. So whether it's grid or repeater or layouter, stack, etc.
Yeah. So I think the in the beginning, I was like repeater, layouter, they feel very similar, but they're actually very different. For one, the repeater, you're able to use dynamic content in there. You're able to tie in dynamic content. So content within those items that you built can update as you update the items, the content in your content manager. I think the repeater is, for me, is a little more rigid. Like you can't set the item widths and things. Everything's kind of like grid-like, it feels like. There's some other things there. The layouter is very, it's like just kind of like a shortcut to using containers, and that's how I look at it. Just like, it's just skipping a couple steps, then starting from scratch. I like to start from scratch personally and use containers, but layouter is something that I would choose if I wanted to utilize Flexbox's ability to adjust widths and heights of containers and still have that responsiveness. Just make things a little simpler. I hope that answered the question.
No, it's great. And actually, now I'm not going to have a follow-on question for that, which is, can you share a use case where you kind of start it with one layouting tool and then change to a different one? But I guess that kind of says it, right?
Yeah, I think the only time that would happen now is if I was discovering that layouter didn't do something that repeater did. Like I didn't know, like let's say I was expecting to use dynamic content and I thought layouter used it and it doesn't allow me to use the way repeater does, then I would scrap it and jump to the repeater. But um, or I mean, yeah, I think understanding the different elements, and again, I'm not an expert in every single element or in editor X. There's so much to learn, and the way to do that is just to play with things. Just try to, I mean, try to break things and then try to fix them. You know, that's how I try to do things. That may not be the best approach, but yeah, and editor X, I think it's safe to say a good way to learn and practice.
Amazing, brilliant. And we had a question from Lisa. Oh yeah, and actually we had a couple of questions on this. So Lisa asked why you use F4 in the sections to divide, and I think we had another question on F4. Yeah. So How Play said, when I try to use F4 as the unit of my container grid, it always becomes overflow. Any special setting I need? So I guess that first question is, why do you use F4? And then on to that second question about any special settings for using F4 to make sure everything works.
Yeah, FR, I just use that. It's just a fraction unit. Instead of putting a specific percentage or pixel value, I just put, I know that if I use one FR, one FR, one FR for 3 items or 3 containers in a grid, they're all going to be the same size. If I put the middle one to 2, it's going to be slightly bigger than the ones on the sides. 3 is going to be more bigger. 4. So that's the reason I use FR. It's just a simpler value for me to use. And then the follow-up, the other question was, sometimes there's overflow.
Yeah, so How Play saying, when I try to use F4 as the unit of my container grid, it always becomes overflow. Any special setting I need?
So is it the text that's overflowing, or I'm guessing the content's overflowing or breaking out? I'm not 100% sure.
Maybe How Play can
answer
give
that one.
Some further info on that, and we can.
Yeah. That would be great.
Brilliant. And let's see here. So Kimberly is saying, I have a few items that when I copied and pasted them, they got into my header and that are on my site that I cannot seem to grab as it went into my header. How can I grab those and delete them? Any ideas?
Yes, you can easily go to, and let me share my screen again if that's cool. Oh wait, I just hit the record button. All good. Yeah. I'm going to share my screen again. Let me know when you see it.
Great. Coming through.
Cool. So I'm going to select this right here. And let's say, or I can't select it, right? I'm going to go over here to my layers. And then I will locate it here. And then I can just select it here, hit delete, or undo that. I can go here and delete the item from here as well by going here. So this layers panel is awesome. This went pretty smoothly today, but there's times where things don't go smoothly and you're not able to select things. Maybe something's behind something, or maybe the editor is just not responding for that moment in time. You can easily go in here. I would recommend refreshing first, see if you can be able to get it to work after a refresh. And then if not, go into your layers and then you can select and delete from there. Cool.
Great. And I see How Play is there. If you have any more info you want to post for us there, How Play, about it. We do have this is any more resources on the layouter tool. So there's obviously your follow-on tutorial for this, Rich, which you're going to post next week, right?
Next week. There's some great resources with Editor X themselves for all the elements. They do a great job at that. I learned, not only from practicing and just trying to figure out ways to break things or make things work, but when I can't figure it out, I'll go to the community or I'll go to the site and utilize the resources there in the academy. Goodness, what was the question again?
Any good
resources? Yeah, resources. My YouTube channel. youtube.com/Rich Vargas. I have a introductory layouter video. There'll be a follow video next week on this tutorial that I did today. And yeah, I guess if you have any other questions, shoot me an email or reach out to me somewhere on social media. And yeah, I'm open to ideas and helping out.
I think it's always good to use a combination of all of what you mentioned, like kind of
the
community and the Academy X, and there's a nice kind of combination of resources and as well kind of, you know, we like to connect with people like you, Rich, who are creating really great resources out there and try to bring those back to the community. So please, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, go ahead and join that. I'll share the link again in the chat. And Rich, if you don't mind, after this, you might share the direct links to that tutorial, your own tutorial that you mentioned.
Yes.
That will bring everybody to it. So come over to us in the Facebook group and we'll share some additional resources there as well, guys. I don't think we have any more questions. If anybody has any more questions, this is your chance to, oh, actually, here's one.
Yes.
What layout do you, okay, so best layouts for different breakpoints. So you use rows for mobile. Rows are best for mobile. Rich,
rows, 100% rows. I recommend when we're talking about the layouter. Yes.
Great. Okay, great. And is it better to be, okay, so sorry. Is it better to start with one breakpoint to begin with and then work your way through editing other breakpoints?
Oh, that's a good question. So should we start with, I mean, for me, I already know what breakpoints I want to use. I use them in the another builder for where I work at Raw Content. So I just, to keep things simpler in my life, I know that those are very popular breakpoints. I use those. You can Google and see what are the top breakpoints. You can, but if not, just you want to stick with some standard breakpoints. I would Google it. There's a lot out there because if you start creating breakpoints based off of your design, you might end up with like 20 breakpoints, or I don't know. I don't even think it goes. I don't know if Editor X will do that, but you can end up with many breakpoints that you didn't need to create. That let's say the text, like, oh well, you should have resized your text instead of creating a breakpoint for that. Like, it's yeah, you can try doing that. I recommend doing a little research. I don't have any recommendations myself aside from what was included or what I used today.
And Kimberly has a great question. Almost missed. Apologies, Kimberly, but here we are. What is the proper way to use docking?
Oh, okay. The proper way to use docking. Could you give me a scenario where you would, I mean, the proper way you use docking? I mean, docking is very, you can either dock to the top, left, bottom, or right. Goodness, what's the proper way to use docking? Do you have an issue with docking, or a scenario where you think you should use docking versus not using docking?
If you've got any more additional context you want to give there.
Yeah, sorry.
Pop it in.
So I guess docking is, I mean, you can dock things to, so if I wanted something to be a certain amount of pixels from the top or the left, right, top or bottom, I would dock it to the top, left, or right, or bottom. So if I wanted something to be 10 pixels from the top and 10 pixels from the left, I would dock it to the top and left and set those values. And then my content will always be that 10 pixels away, or 10%, or whatever value or type of value you use from there. If you want to dock it from the top, left, and the right, or the top or the bottom, left and right, you could dock it with a certain pixel value or whatever value you're using from the bottom of that parent container. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I have one more question, Rich, and I think we're gonna try and finish up then. But Ames is just asking, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, is there a way to save layouts you've created as templates for future projects?
Ooh, that's a great question. I haven't thought of that. I haven't made it that far. aims.
See if we can
but
find out that answer from one of our product team.
but yeah, I would say if there isn't a way, I'm sure there is a workaround way, and I encourage you to explore that and then post in the community and share with us.
Yes, brilliant. Look, that's exactly the advice I would give as well. Thanks, Rich. Look,
Yeah,
guys, that's a wrap from us today, but thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to Rich for a great tutorial and some really great answers to those questions as well. As I said, please check out Rich's videos on YouTube. Search Rich Vargas Editor X on YouTube and you'll find those. And I do highly recommend that you take a look at those. But what we will also do is over on our Facebook group, we'll share these as well, folks. So, you know, please come along there and we'll share the links in there for Rich's tutorials and some of the additional Editor X resources that we mentioned as well. And before we sign off, actually, I want to tell you about our webinar that's coming up next week. We've got a panel discussion on the client relationship happening on Tuesday, where we'll be joined by 4 Editor X pros and community leaders, as well as one of our lead product managers to discuss everything from how to collaborate effectively with clients, insights into kind of client processes and handover processes and things like that, as well as some product insights too on the collaboration tools inside of Editor X. So I'll put the link to that to register in the chat as well. So yeah, look, let's continue the conversation, as we said, over on the Facebook group. If you've got any additional questions, if you think of any additional questions, please post them there, folks. We would be delighted to hear them. And I think Rich would be delighted to hear them too. And you know, look, thanks to everyone for joining and thanks to Rich for a great presentation. Rich, it's been fantastic. I hope you enjoyed it too.
Yes, I enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody. You're welcome. And thank you for the compliments. And thank you for joining. I really hope more than anything that you guys learned something today, even if it was just wasn't about the layouter, but it was maybe about something else, like, oh, I can do that with the inspect or the layers and delete something if I can't click on it. I mean, as long as you got something, and I really encourage you to get connected with the community. Like Maria said, collaborate with one another. If you have a problem, try to solve it. And if you find a solution, let us know. If you don't, come to the community and see if maybe you can solve it with someone else from the team. It's all about collaboration and working together, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. And Kimberly's asking, will this be reposted? Yes, we will have all this posted in the Facebook group, folks. And that's also where you can find out about upcoming events and everything that's kind of happening. So that's where you can find recordings of past events and future events. So let's see, we'll see you there. And look, we're looking forward to connecting with you and connecting all of our great Editor X creators to do some great things. Thanks, everyone. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.